Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be sharing the cards I made using Spellbinders Handmade Holidays Christmas Kit. It's Christmas in July, so it's time to get started on some fun Christmas cards. Spellbinders just released their Handmade Holidays Christmas Kit, and it is packed full of fun Christmas goodies. If you're interested in purchasing the kit or any of the add-ons, I do have links in the description box below. And for my cards, I'm really focusing on the products that are included in the kit, including the cardstock. I do end up bringing in at least 1 or 2 sheets of cardstock from my stash, but for the most part, I'm using the cardstock that's included in the kit. And you can purchase an additional pack of cardstock. For card design number 1, I'm using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from OWH. It's number 218. I'm using this lovely plaid paper for the background. For the strip that goes across the card, I have a green tone-on-tone pattern. And to add a little bit of separation and shine, I'm putting a Love from Lizzie peel-off along the edge of that green strip. This is the gold mirror color in the pinstripe style. I don't need a full peel-off strip to go along the top, since a lot of that area will be covered up with the image box. I'll wrap the ends around the back, layer this piece on some of the red cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 5.5 inches by 4.25 inches. For the image box, I used one of the pattern papers that has a floral image in 2 of the corners. I simply trimmed it down, and I have that lovely floral image in the upper right-hand corner. I layered the image box on the same red cardstock. For a sentiment, I'm adding Merry and Bright, and this is one of the sentiment ephemera pieces that's included in the kit. For a final finishing touch, using more Love from Lizzie peel-offs, this is the same gold mirror color in the mini circle style. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I have all of the card pieces organized in Spellbinders craft stack tray. This is the medium size. They do have a larger size as well. I selected 2 of the pattern papers, cut them at an angle, and I'm layering them on the burgundy cardstock that's included in the card kit. The bottom of the card has a red tone-on-tone grid design with what looks like a gold splatter. And on the top, it's a grid, and it has some tiny gold foil stars. So it's really shiny. I cut a 3/8 inch strip from the craft cardstock that's included in the kit, put some of the double-sided adhesive tape on the back, and I put that strip between the 2 pattern papers. It helps cover up the little gap. The strip is longer than the card front, so I'll simply flip it over, use my scissors, and trim off the overhang. Next, I'll add a stitch circle die cut, and I'm adhering it on a Vellum Scalloped circle die cut. The cardstock I use for the stitch circle is one of the card bases that's included in the kit. It's hard to see in the video, but it does have a linen texture finish on one side. After I adhere the 2 circles together, I'll put barely art glue on the back and adhere this scallop circle on the front of the card. Now I'll bring in several of the floral image ephemera pieces. I have the main image with 2 flowers, and there's a sweet little bird sitting on a pine branch. And I'm also adding 2 of the single pine cone pieces. For a sentiment, I'm adding Merry Christmas. This is another sentiment ephemera piece that's included in the kit. I put double-sided adhesive tape on the back to adhere it down. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding a small banner in the upper left-hand corner, and I used a small scrap piece of this same burgundy cardstock. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 3, the card sketch is from Mojo Monday. This is number 542. For the background of my card, the white cardstock is another card base that's included in the kit. For the wide panel that goes down the middle of the background, I selected a pattern paper that has a bunch of different Christmas sentiments. Instead of layering that piece on more cardstock, I'll use more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the same gold mirror color in the pinstripe style, and I'm using the medium width. Since the very center will be covered up, I'm able to use some of the smaller scrap pieces. For the strip that goes across the card at the bottom, I'm using the soft peach and white polka dot paper. After layering the background piece on some red cardstock, I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. Next, I'll add a stitch circle die cut, and I use some of the green tone-on-tone pattern paper. I'll layer it on a scallop circle die cut, and for the scallop circle, I use some of the gold mirror cardstock that's included in the kit. I'll glue the two circles together, put glue on the back, and add the scallop circle on the center of the card, following the design of the card sketch. Although I did cut my circle just a little bit smaller than what's indicated on the sketch. Now I'll add one of the floral ephemera pieces, and I've already put foam dimension on the back. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the floral piece on the center of the circle. For a sentiment, I'm adding one of the banner sentiments, Warmest Wishes. I'll be adhering the left side of the sentiment on part of the floral ephemera piece, and the very right side will go off the edge. To help keep it at the same level, I'll add foam dimension on the very right side, then I'll put glue on the back of the left side and adhere it in place. For a final finishing touch, I'm using the bling that's included in the kit. It's this lovely blush color. I'll put 2 of the gemstones in the upper left-hand corner and 3 in the lower right-hand corner around the sentiment. They do have adhesive on the back, but I'm adding a small drop of glue just to make sure they stay in place. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 3. For card number 4, the card sketch is from Sugar Pea Designs. This is Sugar Sketch number 25. I selected 2 pattern papers, and I'll be layering everything on some of the dark green cardstock that's included in the kit. For that background rectangle piece with all of the trees, I'm rounding all 4 corners. I'll round the pattern paper and also the cardstock layer. I use Spellbinders. I think it's called a 2-in-1 punch. It has the corner rounder option and also a notch option. After layering the tree paper on the green cardstock, I'll put adhesive on the back and add that panel on the very background, which is a green tone-on-tone pattern. Then I'll layer that piece on the same green cardstock. For most of my cardstock layers, they're an additional 1/8 of an inch. So that background green tone-on-tone pattern paper layer is 5 1/4 of an inch by 4 inches. And the green cardstock layer is 5 3/8 of an inch by 4 1/8 of an inch. Now I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For the image panel, I'm using one of the card bases for that white cardstock, and I'll layer it on the same dark green cardstock. There are 2 small banners that will come out of the right side of that image panel. I selected 2 of the tone-on-tone pattern papers. There's a teal paper with little snowflakes and a red tone-on-tone. I think it has Santa and some other sentiments. You'll just see a tiny bit of it. I'll cut a fishtail on the end of each of those pieces, adhere them down, putting the red banner in front. After adhering the image box on the left side, I'll add a few of the image ephemera pieces and also the sentiment Joy. For the ephemera pieces in the kit, you do receive 2 of each. So I'm using the same tree and just staggering them so one looks like it's more in the background. I'll add the sentiment Joy in front of the trees, and I did pop it up with foam dimension. I'm also adding a gold star in the lower left-hand corner, and I also pop that up with foam dimension. For embellishments, I'll add more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the gold mirror color in the mini circle style. I'll put 3 of them on the 2 banners on the right side of the card. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 4. I love the beautiful gold foil detail on the ephemera images and sentiments. For card number 5, the card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 34. I selected 3 pattern papers. For the very background, I have the light teal with tiny white snowflakes. For the smaller panel, I have this fun design with lots of candy canes and gold foil bows. I'm layering everything on some dark green cardstock. For the narrow strip that goes across the card, using more of the red tone-on-tone pattern that does have Santa and North Pole sentiments, but you'll only see a tiny bit on the right and left side. After adding my card front onto a card base, I'll adhere the candy cane panel. Next, I'll add a stitch circle die cut, and I used another card base for that cardstock. I'll adhere the circle on the left side using Barely Art glue. Now I'll bring in some of the ephemera pieces. I have the double candy canes with the gold bow and the sentiment Happy Holidays. I'll glue down the candy cane ephemera piece on the circle die cut. For this sentiment, I will be popping it up with foam dimension, but I'm only adding foam on the area where it goes off of the circle die cut. Behind that tiny bit that does sit on the circle die cut, that H from the word holidays, I will put a scrap piece of cardstock. Then I'll remove the release paper on the foam, add a little bit of Barely Art glue behind that scrap cardstock area. Then I'll adhere the sentiment on the right side of the circle. For a final finishing touch, using a small scrap piece of the dark green cardstock, I'll cut a small banner and adhere it in the upper right-hand corner of the candy cane panel. And I'm adhering it just a tiny bit higher than that panel. I think it gives the card a little extra interest. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 5. For card number 6, the card sketch is from Mojo Monday. This is sketch number 531. I selected 3 pattern papers. For the narrow banner that goes across the card, using some of the red tone-on-tone pattern paper, I'll cut a fishtail on the right side, and I will layer it on some of the dark green cardstock. For the 2 small rectangles, using more of the light teal with snowflake pattern paper, and also this lovely design with a bunch of foliage pieces. Now, I didn't cut the cardstock layers as long as those 2 pattern paper pieces, but the very bottom will be covered up, so I'm not worried about it. I'll adhere the snowflake panel down first, and I'm using cardstock from one of the card bases for the background. I have the linen texture side showing. Before adhering the other rectangle panel, I will add a scrap cardstock piece on the very right side where it goes off of that snowflake panel. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in place. And I'll do the same thing before adding the red banner, just checking any areas that need a little extra lift. That way one side doesn't droop down. So I will put that scrap cardstock piece on the very left side. And I'll also add a small scrap cardstock piece on the right side of the banner. Just tuck that underneath. Now I'll layer the background on the same dark green cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. Hopefully wherever you live, it hasn't been super hot. I live in Western Washington, and this week we've been in the upper 90s. And I know it gets way hotter in the rest of the country, but we don't get temperatures like that in Western Washington very often. Mid-80s are already too hot for me, so once we're in the 90s or hit triple digits, I'm not very comfortable. So So I'm ready for it to cool down again. Now I'll bring in some ephemera pieces. I have a pine cone with a pine branch, and I'll be putting that on the left side. And I've already attached the sentiment, Merry Everything and Happy Always. I'm also adding 2 small banner ephemera pieces in the upper right-hand corner. And I'll offset them slightly so you can see both of the designs. For embellishments, I'm using some of the sequins that are included in the kit. I'll put 2 in the upper right-hand corner and 3 around the image and sentiment ephemera pieces. They don't have adhesive on the back, so I'll first add a small drop of Barely Art glue, and I'm picking up the sequins using Scrapbook.com's Craft Pro Pick tool. I'm using the wax tip end. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 6. For card number 7, the card sketch is from OWH. This is number 244. This card will feature 3 different pattern papers. And for the background, I'm using another card base. I have the linen texture side showing. For the large banner, I selected the pattern paper with all the different Christmas sentiments. I'll cut a fishtail on the bottom, layer it on some dark green cardstock. For that background panel, there's 2 different pattern papers. For the narrow strip on the left side, I'm using the green tone-on-tone pattern. For the larger panel, I have this beautiful floral design. To add a little bit of separation between the 2 pattern paper pieces, I'll add a Love from Lizzie peel-off using the gold mirror color in the pinstripe style. And this is the narrowest width. Since I will be covering up that area toward the bottom, I was able to use a few of the scrap peel-off pieces. Now I'll add this panel on the white background, layer that on some red cardstock, then I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. Next I'll add the large banner with all the Christmas sentiments. Adhere it on the right side of that floral panel. I've already stamped out the sentiment on some craft cardstock, and this stamp is included in the kit. Wishing you a season that's merry and bright. Before adhering the sentiment down, I will put some foam pieces on the very right side where it goes off of all those other layers. And I'll put glue on the back of the rest of the sentiment and adhere it in place. Now I'll add one of the chipboard stickers. I'll put it on the left side of that sentiment strip. The chipboard stickers do have adhesive on the back, but I'll also add a little bit of glue. Just want to make sure it stays in place. To finish off the card, I'm using more Love from Lizzie peel-offs in the mini circle style and gold mirror color. So there's my finished card, and this is card number 7. For card design number 8, the card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 457. For this card, I selected 3 different pattern papers. For the very background, I have the off-white design, has a grid pattern and a bunch of tiny gold foil stars. For the smaller rectangle in the background, I'm using some white and red stripe paper. And for the larger rectangle, the narrow piece, I'm using this fun pattern paper with a bunch of Santa heads. I'll layer that piece on some of the burgundy cardstock that's included in the kit. Add the Santa panel on the center of the card, so you'll see just a narrow bit of the white and red diagonal stripe paper. Then I'll layer the background on the same burgundy cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. And I also added a narrow strip of the pattern paper on the inside of the card just for a little extra detail. Now I will be changing up the card sketch. Instead of that narrow sentiment panel, I'm adding a larger sentiment box. I used some of the white cardstock from the card bases, layered it on some gold mirror cardstock. I'll adhere the sentiment box toward the bottom of the card, For a sentiment, I'll be adding Merry Christmas, and this is a puffy sticker that's included in the kit. Now they are stickers, so they do have adhesive on the back, but I always add a little bit of glue as well. Just want to make sure they stay in place. And sometimes those puffy stickers aren't super sticky. And I find that with most brands, so it never hurts to add just a little extra adhesive. I'll add the word Christmas down first, and the C is separate from the rest of the Christmas word. Then I'll add the word Merry above the word Christmas, and with the word Merry, the M is also separate. And I'm leaving a little extra space on the left side of the sentiment. That way I can add some holly leaves and berries. And these are also puffy stickers. I'll adhere the 2 holly leaves down first. For the berries, I will put a small piece of foam dimension behind them since I'm adding them on top of the sticker layers. I'll add the larger berry on the left side and that smaller berry on the right side. Since I first put glue on the back of the berry, the foam piece did not want to stick. So I was trying to find an area where it would grab on. Once the glue dries, that berry isn't going anywhere. And I'll need just a teeny tiny bit of foam behind that smaller berry. So there is my finished card, and this is card design number 8. There's lots of beautiful gold shine on this card from those tiny stars in the background and the gold layer around the sentiment. For card design number 9, this is a sketch from OWH. It's labeled as bonus sketch number 1. I selected 3 pattern papers. For the background, I'm using the design that has lots of foliage pieces. For the wide strip that goes across the card, using the red tone-on-tone pattern with the different Christmas sentiments. For a little bit of separation and shine between the 2 pattern paper pieces, I'll add more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the gold mirror color in the pinstripe style, and I'm using the medium width. Since most of the area will be covered up, I was able to use some of those small peel-off scrap pieces. And that's why you always save those little bits. You never know when you need just a tiny area for a peel-off. For the wider panel on the left side of the card, using the green tone-on-tone pattern paper, and I'll layer it on some dark green cardstock. For this card and the next card, the green cardstock is from my stash. I ran out of the dark green cardstock from the card kit. For the image box, I'm using more of the card base cardstock, and I'll layer it on some red cardstock. Before adhering that piece down, I'll put a scrap piece of cardstock on the very right side where it goes off of that green tone-on-tone pattern paper. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in place. Now I'll add an ephemera image and also sentiment. I have some mistletoe with a red bow and the sentiment Deck the Halls. For embellishments, I'll use more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the gold mirror color in the mini circle style. Put 2 in the upper right-hand corner and 3 in the lower left-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and this is card design number 9. For card design number 10, the card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 639. I selected 3 pattern papers, using the green tone-on-tone design for the very background. For that narrow piece on the left side of the card, have more of the foliage design with that grid pattern in the background. The green cardstock layer isn't quite long enough, but the right side of that piece will be covered up. And on the right side, where I'll be adding an image ephemera piece, using more of that red tone-on-tone pattern paper. I layered it on some red cardstock, and before adhering it down, I did put a scrap piece of cardstock on the very right side. Now I'll layer that piece on some dark green cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Now I'll bring in a few ephemera pieces. I'll be adding the sentiment Season's Greetings, and I've already put foam dimension on the back. I have this beautiful lantern with all the gold foil shine. I'll adhere that piece on the red tone-on-tone pattern paper piece. And for a little extra detail, I'm also adding a red ephemera bow on the top of the lantern. I'm keeping this card fairly simple. For embellishment, I'm adding a small gold star on the left side of the lantern. So there is my finished card, and this is card design number 10. Now here's another look at the 12 cards I made using Spellbinders limited edition Handmade Holidays Christmas Kit. If you are interested in purchasing the kit or some of the add-ons, I do have links in the description box below. It's never too early to get started on your Christmas cards. This kit is packed full of fun Christmas and holiday goodies. I still have a ton left over. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.